LJ on the track. LJ on the track.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Relic Show Live. I'm so happy that you're here today. Welcome again to the Relic Show Live, where we turn up, learn up, and speak up. I am your humble host. I'm so glad you're here today. Today, we will be discussing an extraordinary act of endurance, principle, and moral clarity. Senator Cory Booker's 25-hour protest here on the Relic Show Live. If you haven't already heard, Senator Cory Booker held a 25-hour protest on the Senate floor yesterday, coming against the tyranny, fascism, and unprincipled policies that have existed within the government and that are trying to be made into action right now. Now, this was more than a political statement. It was a declaration of the unwavering responsibility we all share to defend democracy, stand against fascism, and uphold the Constitution of the United States. In an era when the foundations of our republic face unprecedented threats, we must reflect on what it means to resist, persist, and to fight for justice. So in order to understand the significance of Booker's stand, we must recognize the moment in which it occurred. I want to start by sharing a short clip of his final statements as he begins to end his 25-hour protest.
So I want to close back where we started about us, about why I'm here. I believe that there is an urgent crisis in our country that we are not talking about. It's not a left-right crisis, it's a right-wrong crisis. It's a moral moment, and again, in America, that's going to define our character, about who we are and what we stand for. There's a threat to the bedrock commitments we've made to each other as a country. People are threatening that bedrock commitment of Social Security. They're calling it a Ponzi scheme. They're making up absolute lies about it. When I read American after American who said that that is their lifeline, they're told stories that if they don't get their Social Security payment or they get caught up because nobody's answering their calls, if the rural Social Security office, I read states red and blue where they're closing Social Security offices, if I now have to drive not 100 miles, but 150 miles at 93 years old, it doesn't quite make sense. One of my colleagues stood up here and said, that's already cutting benefits if you can't access the folks. I stood here because there's a threat to these bedrock commitments. The bedrock commitment we've made in healthcare in this country. We won the defense of the Affordable Care Act, but my colleagues know when you start talking about Medicaid, that's not 20 plus million Americans. It's 70, 80, 90 million Americans. It's our elders in nursing homes. It's our children with disabilities. It's our moms giving birth that are still giving birth in the country with about the highest maternal mortality rates in the industrial world. It's a moral moment. Who do we stand for? Like Schumer shocked me when he said they're going to use some kind of budget gimmick to push this through. You shocked me, Chuck. I thought this was going to come down to the parliamentarian, but it doesn't sound like it now. It's just going to get done. With the math, and I read from Manhattan Institute criticized it on the right. AEI criticized it on the right. They said, what are you doing? What are you doing, America? You're going to rake up trillions and trillions of dollars in debt that our children and our children's children are going to have to pay for, passing the bucks that will grow. Are you doing that to help people get more access to health care, more access to retirement security, more access to the things we believe in, big ideas like universal child care, paid family leave? No, we're doing that in order to renew the tax cuts that I read conservative budget folks, moderate budget folks, all across the spectrum who said it will blow up our deficit.
That was just some of the last comments coming from Senator Cory Booker as he ends his 25-hour protest against what's going on in our government. We need to take action, just like Senator Booker did. Now, his 25-hour protest was not an act of political theater, but a manifestation of deep concern over the erosion of the democratic norms. He took that stand because of unjust policies that threatened the well-being of everyday Americans. The suppression of rights and the encroachment of authoritarian tendencies in our government, just to name a few of those things. His protest was not simply about a single issue, though. It was about a broader fight against the forces that seek to undermine democracy. Ironically, he broke a 60-year-old record held in 1957 by noted segregationist Strom Thurmond, who filibustered for 24 hours and 18 minutes to oppose civil rights. So let's get a clear understanding of what we're standing up against. First, let's talk about the importance of standing against tyranny. Tyranny does not always announce itself with a roar. Sometimes it creeps through the silence, inaction, and complacency. Booker's protest reminds us that in facing injustice, silence is complicity. Tyranny flourishes when those who have power to resist choose convenience over courage. History has shown that when people turn a blind eye to oppression, it only emboldens the oppressors. Our democracy was built on the principle that power must be held accountable. The Constitution was designed to prevent the rise of tyranny, but it is not self-executing. It requires us, the people, to ensure its promises are kept. Booker's protest was a call to action, a moment where he said, "Not on my watch." Not only are we fighting against tyranny, but we must also take up the mantle to fight against fascism with action and solidarity. Fascism, just like tyranny, does not emerge overnight. It takes root through policies that concentrate power, stifle dissent, and erode democratic institutions. When political leaders attempt to silence opposition, suppress the press, or dismantle the judiciary, they set the stage for authoritarian rule. Booker's protest was a defiant response to these dangers. It was a reminder that resistance must be active and not passive. It was not enough to recognize the signs of creeping authoritarianism. We must call it out, challenge it, and work collectively to defeat it. Booker did not stand alone, and never will he or should he, and neither should you or I. Solidarity among citizens, activists, and public servants is our strongest defense against fascism. Because defending the Constitution is a responsibility we all share. But a Constitution is only as strong as the people willing to defend it. When leaders attempt to subvert the principles for personal or political gain, it is our duty to push back. Booker's 25-hour stance protest was a direct affirmation of this duty. By speaking out, he honored the sacrifices of those who fought for civil rights, who marched for equality, who demanded justice, even in the face of oppression. The Constitution was written to prevent unchecked power, and each generation must reaffirm this commitment to that principle. That means voting, organizing, protesting, and when necessary, taking bold action like Booker took in the 24-hour stand and protest. So I want to end with this, concluding this video by saying what Booker did was not easy. It was physically exhausting, politically risky, and emotionally taxing. But history remembers those who stood firm in things that mattered and when they mattered the most. From Frederick Douglass to Susan B. Anthony, from Martin Luther King to John Lewis, those who resist oppression leave a legacy that outlives them. So I ask you, what will be our legacy? Will we be bystanders in the face of authoritarianism? Or will we, like Cory Booker, take our stand? Will we watch democracy erode, or will we rise to the defense of the Constitution? The choice is ours. And if Booker's protest teaches us anything, it is that the fight for justice never stops. Not for 25 hours, not for a lifetime. It continues to be a battle, and it is one we must be willing to fight. Power to the people. Thank you for watching Relic Show Live. Peace.